In today's era of hyperconnectivity, creating and consuming have both become increasingly self-centered activities. Instead of going to the movies or listening to the radio, we increasingly consume media alone. Scrolling on our phones in bed, binge watching Netflix on our laptops, or going for a hot girl walk with our headphones in. Platforms like TikTok and Spotify are training us to rely on their recommendations instead of talking to friends or going out into the real world to discover new things. Wherever you look, a curated For You page is ready to serve up personalized content. But this hyper-personalization doesn't just apply to how we consume, it's changing how we create as well. Just think about music, where anyone can buy a beat, sing over it, and upload it to the internet all in the same day. You can go viral without ever interacting with another person. Video is headed in the same direction. Whether you're filming TikTok dances or YouTube podcasts, most of it can be made, posted, and monetized entirely alone. So what happens when a generation of artists grows up in isolation like this? No movements to participate in, no creative traditions to build upon, and no community to challenge them or inspire them. In other words, what does the future of art look like without creative scenes? I'm worried that without the kinds of communities that have defined every other progressive era of art, we're losing the ability to make anything that lasts. Instead, we're seeing most creators chase quick hit content for personal gain and then move on to the next thing. We can't help but consume the slop they churn out because more and more it's all that's out there. So I want to lay out a blueprint for how we can fight back, how we can rebuild the kinds of creative communities that make lasting art possible. I think we should start by creating an A24 for YouTube. I'll explain what that means and why it matters, but first we need to lay some groundwork. So we'll start with the current state of YouTube, both as a business and as a home for creators. Then we'll explore how that compares to other artistic scenes and eras throughout history. And in the back half, we'll get into the lessons you and I can apply to build something better, to help save YouTube from itself and reshape the future of online creativity with this A24 approach. Hi, I'm MK, welcome to my world. Let's fucking do this. For me, music has always been that canary in the coal mine, the early warning sign for where creative culture is headed. Once at the forefront of cultural influence, it's now been reduced to parody songs and virality-chasing hooks. As platforms reward whoever can steal the most attention, real art is getting buried, and in music, it feels like it's already starting to disappear. What's happening to music is a cautionary tale for every other creative medium. Personally, I think music's already too far gone to save. Check out this video for more on that topic. But I think we can still save video. It's a newer medium, so it feels like its fate hasn't been sealed quite yet. Despite its relative novelty, social video has already become the most culturally influential medium today. By social video, I don't mean traditional film or TV. I'm talking about internet-native videos like YouTube commentaries, TikTok skits, and video podcasts. This is work made for social platforms and performed by creators, not actors. It's more personal, more participatory, and more fluid. And it's reshaping how we think about media itself. TikTok gets a lot of credit for driving this shift, but the real giant in this space is YouTube. In 2024, TikTok averaged around 1.5 billion users per month. That's an insane number, until you realize that YouTube had nearly double that with 2.7 billion. That means nearly 1 in 3 people on the planet were watching YouTube every month. TikTok is still gaining steam, and it's not the only one coming for YouTube's crown. Every major media company is chasing a piece of the video pie. Spotify and Apple, for example, have both been pouring money into video podcasts. Spotify alone has spent over $1 billion on shows from creators like Joe Rogan, Alex Cooper, and Emma Chamberlain. 250 million Spotify users have watched at least one video. Apple's numbers are harder to track down, but they usually lag somewhere behind Spotify. But with 1 billion people watching video podcasts on YouTube each month, they're both a long way off from being number one. YouTube isn't just winning in podcasting, it's eating traditional TV too. People are now watching YouTube more than Disney, Netflix, or any other video on-demand platform. For younger generations especially, creator-made content feels more real, more relatable, and more worth their time. As Marshall McLuhan famously said, the medium is the message. And with smartphones and social media dominating our attention, video isn't just the best way to reach people, it's increasingly the only way. So everyone is trying to get into video, and everyone is losing to YouTube. It's not surprising that YouTube is so dominant. They've been the default destination for online videos since they launched in 2005. Their platform has changed how a generation thinks about creating and consuming media. When you think about watching videos online, you think about YouTube. As one of the oldest participants in this space, they've developed a pretty good idea of what both creators and consumers want. An old tagline of theirs sums it up pretty well: broadcast yourself. That's the definition of what it means to be a creator today. Everyone is an entrepreneur, a brand, or a business. Your personality becomes a flat image that you try to blow up as big as possible, like one big internet billboard. Whatever the platform, posting isn't just about sharing something you're passionate about. It's about broadcasting and selling yourself. Because the goal is to convert your identity into currency, collaboration and community are seen at best as a distraction and at worst as competition. You're out there to earn for yourself. You're not there to share credit, or worse, your followers, with someone else. Sure, you'll collaborate with a brand, but that's only to the extent it boosts your paycheck or your status. In the early days of YouTube, creators used to collaborate across channels, shout each other out, and actually grow together. But that spirit of collaboration has mostly disappeared, and the idea of scenes within YouTube has largely died with it. That's why the dominant modes of video creation today feel so shallow and short-sighted. Everything is personalized, self-contained, and optimized for mass consumption. Creators shoot alone in their apartments or with a selfie stick out in the world. Each video is a standalone product, engineered not for depth or continuity, but for quick hits and clicks. The goal is to stack up paydays and grow your brand instead of building a lasting body of work. The result is a fragmented ecosystem where even creators talking about the same topics rarely interact in meaningful ways. So instead of movements, we get moments. Brief flashes of conversation where people chase the topic of the day before returning to their individual lanes. For example, since Kyle Chayka's article, "The Internet Isn't Fun Anymore," came out in 2023, you've seen about 1 million creators take that critique and rehash it for their own audiences. Usually it's with way less nuance and depth than the original. In today's culture, it's every man for himself out there. We've lost the connective tissue that made the early internet so special. Without it, creators are just out there chasing each other's shadows instead of building something better together. Today's hyper-independent approach to creation is a big departure from the broader history of artistic production. The most exciting artistic and intellectual breakthroughs have never happened in isolation. They happened in scenes. Groups of creators engaging with each other's work, developing shared values, and pushing the boundaries of their art forms together. Think of the Paris art scene in the 1800s. The Impressionists we celebrate today, like Monet, Renoir, and Degas, were all rejected by the official Paris salons, so they broke away and formed their own underground movement. They organized independent exhibitions, supported each other's work, and in doing so, established Impressionism as a movement with its own identity outside the arts establishment. For a more recent example, look at the DIY punk movement of the 80s. The scene didn't just revolve around individual bands or personalities. Iconic groups like Minor Threat and later Fugazi were part of a growing ecosystem of zines, independent labels, and underground venues that collectively allowed ideas to spread outside the mainstream. It was this collaborative energy that allowed a small countercultural movement to stand on its own instead of getting instantly co-opted and commodified. This wasn't just great for the artists, it was great for audiences too. Discovering one band meant unlocking an entire ecosystem of interconnected work. If you liked the band Rites of Spring, someone might point you towards Embrace, knowing that they came from the same creative world. Just look at the album art here. You can tell that these bands are speaking the same artistic language. Now ask yourself, how many of you can name a genre of YouTube video outside of a few vague catch-all categories? YouTube lacks those clear genre definitions that we see in music, art, or film. Videos get lumped into broad buckets based either on format, like vlog, commentary, or tutorial, or topic, like beauty, gaming, or politics. These are superficial labels that tell you very little about the style, tone, or community behind a video. It's the equivalent of trying to find a painting you like by searching for the words landscape or portrait. Sure, those terms describe the content, but not the expression of it. They don't help you understand what the work feels like. Now compare that to searching for the word impressionism. Those results demonstrate a distinct aesthetic, a shared mood, and a unifying creative philosophy. The subjects may be wildly different, but the vibes are similar. That's the difference a scene makes, and on YouTube, this type of scene building is pretty much non-existent. Without scenes, you're stuck navigating one big formless pool of content. As a viewer, this makes it really hard to find something that truly resonates. Every creator is an island. If you like one creator, there's no clear path tying them to others that you might enjoy too. To avoid totally overwhelming viewers, algorithms have stepped in to contextualize the art for us. So we now rely on feeds instead of scenes. That's why discovering something new feels so accidental now. You just wait for it to magically appear in your feed. It's not the same as finding work that truly speaks to you, but it's good enough to keep you watching. Without the guideposts of scenes, creators of all types are forced to compete against each other in this big pool of content soup. They may not share the same interests or values, but they have to play by the same rules. So everyone is pressured to stop making art and start making content, a cheapened echo of thoughtful creation that's easier for algorithms to parse and audiences to digest. Instead of following their interests and becoming the best in their lane, creators are caught up in a global race to the bottom, where style, substance, and originality are flattened into algorithm-approved sameness. In the absence of scenes, art stops evolving and starts conforming. We can largely blame the smartphone for pushing creative work to become more isolated. The age of personalized mobile internet has eradicated the need for person-to-person collaboration. Why form a band when you can buy a beat from an anonymous online database and sing over it on an app? Why stage your own film screenings when you can shoot a video on your phone and upload it by yourself? Sure, there's something to be said about the democratization of art, but great art still can't be created alone. Personal technology has transformed the idea of collaboration from person to person into person to platform. That means we're not thinking about finding like-minded collaborators or building an audience that shares our values. Instead, we're thinking about what output will convince the algorithm to create an audience for us. Uploading work 3 times a day isn't a recipe for good art, but it's widely accepted as a path to good metrics. Since we now value metrics over audience and ad dollars over community, the algorithm has become our writing partner, forcing down its skewed perspective of what makes something valuable. This is how Mr. Beast has fooled a generation into thinking he's some sort of creative genius. He's famous for studying YouTube's mechanics, decoding how to craft titles and thumbnails that pull viewers in. Instead of creating something that makes a lasting impression, he's found success by lockpicking the algorithm. Now he gets interviewed like a visionary creator when it's really the algorithm that created him. The truth is, he wasn't rewarded for originality before obedience. He was simply the best at playing by YouTube's rules. If that's what platforms reward today, then it's no surprise that most attempts to create video-based scenes have been totally devoid of art. In the 2010s, influencer collectives sprang up as the iPhone generation's attempt at building video scenes. These were groups of young internet personalities living together, filming daily life, and churning out videos. They bought mansions and gave them names like Hype House or Cloud House, which showed no effort to hide their shallow creative ambitions. From the start, their vision of success was tainted by the platforms that enabled them. They were never built for creative exchange or experimentation. These were corporate-backed content farms, engineered for virality, brand deals, and ephemeral fame. They had all the drama you might expect from a real creative scene: ego clashes, fallouts, betrayals, but none of the lasting output that makes a scene meaningful. It's like Fleetwood Mac with none of the hits, so the attention they gained evaporated as quickly as it came. Since the Collab House era imploded, creators have retreated further back into their own silos. And with the rise of AI, it's only going to get easier to collaborate with a machine instead of a community. So where do we go from here? If we want to move the pendulum back from silos to scenes, we need to understand the core values that make real scenes last. The first thing we need to do to create meaningful video scenes is redefine success. Instead of maximum views, we need to be chasing memorable views, the kinds that make you think, feel, and come back for more. Shout out Colin and Smear for this concept. I wish I could take credit for it. A key way to do this is through creative cross-pollination. That means instead of stealing someone else's ideas or repackaging them, you're thinking about how to build on top of them. This gives ideas weight and momentum that carries them beyond shallow hot takes and viral moments. The goal is to create something that's evergreen. Something that's relevant 5, 10, or even 50 years from now. When everyone is seen as a collaborator instead of a competitor, this lets you start to build real communities. You stop being a bunch of individuals that talk about the same things and start becoming a community that believes in something. And then that group starts to develop an energy of its own that an audience can latch onto. Now I'll admit, this approach takes risk. You might make a bad video if you try creating something new. You might be wrong if you try to form your own opinion instead of lazily co-opting the dominant narrative. But even your mistakes can become part of a broader creative storyline. And through those experiments, you'll form something no audience or algorithm can ever take away from you. A real point of view. Now this approach also takes time. You won't land brand deals overnight, and you won't instantly get 1 million views. But if you can build a POV that's uniquely yours, you'll stumble your way into building an audience that can grow with you. You might think this sounds idealistic or unsustainable. We need to please platforms to survive, right? How else are we going to make money? That may be true in the short term, but in the long term, these shared values allow scenes to outlive platforms. In music, collectives like Drain Gang and PC Music have succeeded in the Spotify era by actively cultivating their own scenes. While overnight sensations on TikTok struggle to sell tickets, musicians rooted in scenes can count on a consistent audience to show up and support them, whether that's buying their merch, filling out venues, or participating in their private online communities. Scenes offer something more than exposure. They offer identity, values, and cohesion. And for audiences, that acts as a powerful signal. If you like one artist in a scene, you'll probably like the next one. With scenes as signals, artists can carry audiences with them across platforms, formats, and phases of their career. That's why when the next social app blows up, people will be there talking about Young Lean or Charlie XCX. They won't be talking about the TikTok user that went viral once last year. So how can we carry over these lessons from scene building in music to the world of social video? Let's start looking at A24 as a closer comparison. Just as scenes have worked in music, they've also worked in film, and the most dominant recent example is A24. Now I'll admit, they're not a perfect reference since at the end of the day they're still running a business first, but because they've been both commercially and critically successful, I think they're a useful model to look at here. For background, A24 is an independent film studio that launched in 2012. They quickly became one of the most culturally influential forces in modern film. At a time when Hollywood was doubling down on sequels, reboots, and other nostalgia bait, A24 took the opposite approach. They funded bold, strange, and emotionally risky films from unknown filmmakers. But what really sets A24 apart isn't just the individual movies they've made, it's the unique identity that they've built. Their name has become shorthand for an entire creative universe, emotionally raw, visually bold, and narratively off-center. Like a record label in its prime, A24 has become its own creative hub. They bring together writers, actors, directors, composers, who aren't always collaborating directly, but whose work still feels interconnected. This is what makes it feel like a scene, even though it's a studio. Think of Ari Aster with Hereditary and Midsommar, Barry Jenkins with Moonlight, the Daniels with Everything Everywhere All at Once, or Robert Eggers with The Witch and The Lighthouse. Their styles are all wildly different, but they still feel like they fit together somehow. That's the power of scene building. It's trust, taste, and identity wrapped into a single signal. Because of this approach, A24 has developed a cult following. People will watch anything just because it has A24 in the credits. Their name carries a certain set of values and quality that many people have come to love. Or not. It's not for everyone, but the people that love it, love it. So when I say that I want to build an A24 for YouTube, I'm talking about crafting a creative universe with its own values, voice, and language. Something that's bigger than any individual piece of content. And if there's any platform left that could support the next generation of scenes, like the one built by A24, or great artists, or great record labels, it's YouTube. Unlike TikTok or Instagram, where you're just doom scrolling a feed that autoplays for you, on YouTube there's still some semblance of audience choice. Yes, it's an algorithmic feed, but it's still up to you to pick a video and press play. We still have a sliver of agency there, allowing audience choice to have a slight but meaningful impact on how content performs. And right now, there's a growing hunger for long-form content. Most of what's currently offered today to meet that demand is empty calories. Podcasts where influencers blabber for 3 hours, or another Netflix docuseries about domestic violence. But the fact that people will watch that stuff tells you there's a hole they're looking to fill. Long-form video offers immense potential for creative expression that can fill that void with meaning instead of empty noise. But we as creators have to take the leap and put in that extra effort. As lame as it sounds, I still believe in humanity's innate curiosity. Everything looks like brain rot today, not because people have changed, but because platforms are built on the assumption that we don't want or deserve anything better. Or maybe it's more accurate to say that they're built on greed, knowing that if they activate our brain's pleasure centers often enough, we'll stop asking for anything more than fleeting entertainment. But I still believe there's an artistic void that many are hungry to fill. We just have to meet audiences where they are, adapting the way that we deliver art to match how people expect to receive it, through social video. YouTube may be the last place where thoughtful creative work still has a shot at cutting through, a place where art and attention still have a chance to meet. People are watching YouTube. Let's talk about how to meet them there. We can't just upload art into YouTube's ad machine and hope that it behaves differently. If we want something more, we have to build intentional structures that signal something new. That's why I'm building an A24 for YouTube, starting with a playlist. It's not just a collection of links, but a kind of studio. A shared space for supporting the videos I believe in. Now, I know this might sound like an overly simplistic solution, but look at what the simple DIY repackaging of mixtapes did for rap culture. It helped launch regional scenes outside of the mainstream label system, scenes that went on to redefine the future of music. The idea is that instead of playing by YouTube's rules, we can start to create our own game within their existing playground. My goal with this playlist studio model isn't just to build the next A24 for video, it's to build thousands of them. So if you want to work on that together, DM me. But honestly, I'm hoping you might also be inspired to start your own. So let's talk about how to do this. First of all, if you have something you've been thinking about filming but haven't tried yet, now's the time to start. Whether it's music videos, essays, reflections, jokes, or Fortnite edits, just start experimenting. As those ideas start to take shape, you can form your first playlist. Now you might just have your own videos there to start, but the goal is to start thinking beyond growing just your own channel and your own brand. So as you're building out your playlist, start to send it to friends and people you admire to see who might want to build it with you. It's important to make a distinction here. Building a scene is not the same as following a trend. Trends are surface-level formats that come and go. They're driven by viral engagement or fleeting aesthetic novelty. Things like TikTok dances and popular audio clips are trends. So what I'm talking about isn't just a list of videos following the same popular format. It's about rallying creators around some sort of connective tissue, whether it's a theme, a vibe, or a style. Anything that provides cohesion to counter the algorithm's reward for sameness. A scene becomes real when it finds a name that sticks. So give yours one to make it easier to find. Fun fact, the name Impressionism was actually coined by a critic of that movement. The artist just decided to adopt it. Moral of the story, fuck the haters. So whether your scene name is something like glitch fiction or dreamcore, Put it in the name of your playlist and any associated videos. And finally, give your playlist scene a shared visual identity to make it instantly recognizable, whether that's a common image used in thumbnails, a color palette, or some sort of design language. The idea isn't to just build a company or a brand, it's to build context. The best part is, you don't need permission from YouTube to do this, and you don't need a big Hollywood budget. Anyone can make a playlist and millions can view it. The technology is already there. This playlist as studio model could be the start of building communities again within YouTube, because scenes don't happen by accident. They happen when people reach out and connect. So here's my challenge. Figure out what you like to make, find other people who make stuff you like, and create your own playlist scene. You don't even have to be the one on camera. This YouTube thing requires so much work. From writing the script, to designing the graphics, to doing the filming, there's a role for everyone. You really don't even have to create anything at all. You can be a curator. Create your own playlist that connects dots in meaningful ways. Become your own hub that draws together audiences and creators around styles, themes, and ideas that you find interesting. Just contribute. A playlist is a tangible thing to rally around whatever role in it you want to play. Scenes aren't just about nostalgia or bringing back relics of the past. They're blueprints. If we want a future where art has meaning again, we don't need to wait for permission. We just need to start building it together. I know that in today's culture, the algorithm feels like the most powerful monolith you could choose to serve. But I can promise that you'll reap far greater rewards culturally, spiritually, and eventually financially by serving one of the few things greater: art. Let's fucking do this.